Happy December, right, writers? Can't believe we're already here in December. It's ridiculous. Let me know in the comments in the chat if you can hear me and see me fine. I will mute my phone and let's get this live Q&A in up and running. So, wanted to know down in the chat, and if you're watching this on the replay, let me know down in the comments where you're watching this from. What city, what state, what country, maybe what planet. I don't know. Let me know where you're watching this from. I hope everybody is having an amazing Q4. I know that there's a hype about Q4, rightfully so. I know when you first start out, it's very easy to expect one thing and you hear everybody saying how great it is. And then you get kind of down when it doesn't look like you're expecting. Just remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And even if you don't have the best Q4 ever, guess what? The funny thing about Q4 is it comes around every year. So, you just learn from this year's and make next year's even better. I will tell you that my Q4s, with very little exception, have just continued to get better year over year. So, all right. So we see Patricia's in the house from St. Louis, just about 3 hours north of me. Glad to have you here. Stacy's in the house. Stacy says, "Hey Keith, please give me some insight into book sizing for an early reader." Okay. KDP says 6 by 9, but would I make it letter size? Okay. For teachers pay teachers or homeschools. Okay, good question. Good question. Okay, so for an early reader test, so you're talking about either teacher pay teacher or you're talking about maybe Amazon Ignite if you got accepted to that. Um, okay, so what KDP, remember, KDP is about books. So if you're doing a book, um, I would say 6 by 9 is it's like the industry standard just in general. So uh, that's just the default, regardless of what type of book it is. So I wouldn't necessarily go so much by what KDP says. Go by what your competition is doing. Now, if you're talking about for teacher pay teacher or Amazon Ignite, then 8.5 by 11 is what you want to do. You want to do just like a normal page size, because what's going to happen is they're going to print it out, from their printer, either at school or at home. And so it's going to print out on an 8.5 by 11 anyway. So if you're doing it for that purpose, yeah, 8.5 by 11 is exactly what you'd want it to be. Unless you're in the UK, and then you would do an A4. But in general, 8.5 by 11 is what you'd be looking for that particular element, for that particular product. Again, something that's going to be digital, something that's going to be printed on someone else's computer. Now, if you were doing a book for early readers, well, then you probably would want to go. I still wouldn't go 6 by 9. I might go. I might go 8 by 10. It depends. It depends on the thickness of it. Your best, if when it comes to a book, my biggest suggestion is look at what your competition's doing, and that will tell you what, not necessarily what you have to do, because it's your book, you can do whatever you want, or your product, you can do whatever you want. But it tells you what your purchasing audience is used to, what's customary, and therefore will have the least barrier of entry. It's not going to seem odd. But again, for a digital product that is going to be printed on a computer, then yeah, you want to go with 8.5 by 11. Good question. Okay. Justin is saying hi from Australia. Glad to have you here. Stacy is in Morrisville, North Carolina. Awesome. Awesome. We got Long Island, New York in the house. Glad to have you here. I'm originally from Connecticut. Went to Long Island quite frequently in my youth. Okay, we have a question here from Andre, it looks like. Um, and it says, "Where can I find pre-made characters with several poses to use in children's books so I don't have to hire an illustrator?" Excellent question. Um, I actually just shared it, a place that I like to use, and it's called Deposit Photos. Um, Deposit Photos, one of the great things about it is, yes, it's stock images, but it's not they're not free stock images. And what that means is not everybody's going to be using them. Something that's free, like on Pixabay, and I just adore Pixabay, and I've done many videos about them. But the downside is because it's free, there's no barrier of entry, so everybody and their mother are using it. Whereas if it's something that you have to pay for, it makes it a little bit um, more unique, and it makes it so that way not everybody is using them. So deposit photos is probably the one of the most um, cost effective way to find images for children's books. And you can find, I mean, it'll take some time. You have to do some, your due diligence and do some research in it, but you can find different poses. The great thing is like when you find an illustration that you like, you can there's an option to filter on ones similar or even ones by the same artist. And I always try to use ones from the same artist because it's going to be in the exact same um, typically the exact same character, and it'll look more cohesive in your book. So that would be my first choice would be probably Deposit Photos. Deposit Photos just ran they do it once or twice a year where they knock everything 50% off. That just ended yesterday, I believe. Um, I shared a thing on it in my Facebook group, but yeah, but even without the 50% off, they're still very reasonably priced. You can purchase either by the illustration, but the best way to do it, the most efficient way, is to buy a set of 10 or 100, however many illustrations you're going to do it. That way it brings the cost per illustration down, and it'll be a lot more cost effective, and definitely can be a lot cheaper than hiring an illustrator. Another option that I know Nuria uses, um, the the uh, the home boss. If you don't follow her, check out her channel. She does amazing stuff, and she does a lot of no content, but she also does some children's books as well. So, and I'm going to be doing a video shortly on her. She actually has a children's book course, and I took that, and I'll be doing a review on that in the coming weeks. But anyway, she likes to go to Creative Fabrica, um, so you can try that as well. You can, if you want to help out the channel, you can go to kwheelerbooks.com/cf for Creative Fabrica, and you can check out their stuff as well. But excellent question. And I'm sorry if I butchered your name. All right. So Justin says, "How do you design puzzle books to differentiate yourself from the competition?" Great question. Okay, so there's a couple things to do. One is I like to you want to make your cover stand out, and this goes for everything, not just puzzle books, but you want to make sure that your cover stands out, but still looks like it fits within your niche. So you don't want something that's completely jarring, but you want something that's going to make when people are scrolling, especially on their phones, that they're going to stop and look at your book at your book cover. Um, that's the number one thing you want to do, because regardless of how unique your interior may be, if they don't click on your book, they'll never see your interior. So you need to make sure that that cover is spot on. So then once you got your cover done, and one thing I always do on my puzzle books is include illustrations on the cover of what they can expect on the interior. And that's one way to take a unique interior and kind of, make it stand out right there on your cover. So that's the first thing you want to do. Again, that cover. Now, as for your interior, you you want you want to have things that I always do variety books, um, at least at the start of a series. But anyway, so I always do variety puzzle books. And the reason why I do that is because, yes, Sudokus, word searches, cryptograms, those all sell. They sell very well. But because of that, there are so many out there. It's kind of like doing a line journal. But if you do a variety book, you're not only still attracting those people that want a word search or that want a Sudoku. But one, you're not limiting yourself to just that type of audience. If you only have a word search book, the only people that are going to be interested in your book are people that like word searches. Not everybody does. Not everybody's in the mood for a word search. Some people just want to do just math based stuff. So by making it different and having different types of puzzles within it, can help you reach a broader audience. Because if yours has crosswords and word searches and Sudokus, then you're now reaching out to people who are interested in any one of those. So you broaden your audience. Um, Another thing you want to do is you want to keep it. You still want to keep it specific to a niche. It doesn't have to be like so drilled down, but you want it so that way it's not just speaking to quote unquote everybody. Because when you create something for everybody, it's not unique. So you're really creating it for nobody. It just blends in with everything else. So you definitely want to make sure, even with puzzle books, that you have a niche, that you have some type of theme. Your theme could be Hollywood. So it could be, the whole thing could be about movies. Now, you can have word searches that are actors from the 50s, actors from the 60s, directors, whatever, different horror, different genres within the film industry. And yes, you can still do math based, number based puzzles as well, like Sudokus and cryptograms are really words, but anyway, but like Sudokus, and you can do Hashiwakakeros and a bunch of other different ones, because that's the other thing you want to do is you want to also put a couple puzzles in there that maybe they've never heard of before. Because what that does is that makes your puzzle unique, and that makes your puzzle stand out more than another variety puzzle in the same genre or the same niche. So again, you want to make sure that your cover spot on, include types of puzzles from your interior, include those on your puzzle cover. Make sure that you stay with a theme, some type of theme on your book, and make sure that that cover makes that theme known. So people who are not just interested in word searches, but people who are interested in word searches and movies will now make sure that they look at your book and it will stand out more than just a normal word search book. And then again, add variety and add some kind of unique puzzles in there. And when I say unique, I want something that's I don't want any more than like 10 or 20% of your book's interior to be something that they've maybe never seen before. You want it just enough to give them a hint of what is out there, but not something that's going to overwhelm them to the point where they're not interested in your book. Because if someone's not familiar with a type of puzzle, they'll be more reluctant to spend X amount of dollars on a book with that type of puzzle in it, if half the puzzle is or half the book is made of that puzzle type. But if there's only a little bit, then it adds intrigue. And so then they're even more interested in it. And also, they, um, if they really like it, those interiors and those types of puzzles, because they're more rare in puzzle books, they'll be more likely to buy not only another puzzle book, but another one of your puzzle books, because they know it has this unique interior inside it. So I hope that answers your question. If it didn't, just ask me a different question or reword it. But I think that should pretty much cover um, any of any way that you really want to differentiate yourself. I mean, those are a couple different ways to do it, and I personally I do all of them. Um, and there's a longer I could go on further as far as like what to do after that, but that's how you first get people interested in not only your book but interested in your brand for your puzzle books. Great question. We got Judy Shearwater's in the house from Spring Branch, Texas. I knew you were in Texas. I didn't know you were in Spring Branch. Um, cool. Good to know. Good to know. Anthony Fleischman in the house. Hey, buddy. Glad to have you stop by. Okay, so it's a book. Okay, so if it's a book um, for early readers, I tend to go bigger. I would say 8 by 10. Um, so I would do an 8 by 10. I mean, 6 by 9 isn't gonna hurt you. It's just may not it may be a little too small for their hands. Um, it's early readers is kind of it's hard to really determine the age range of an early reader because kids read at different levels. So I always try to go a little bit bigger than um, what I think might work. But again, if it's a book, I would just look in your niche and see what the top 10 or 20 books that are selling in your niche are doing, and that will let you know what the buying audience is used to. And that goes for any genre, really, whether it's puzzle books or children's books or young adult novels. It doesn't matter. If you're in doubt when it comes to pricing or trim size, check and see what your competition's doing. See what the audience is used to, and that will give you a better feel of what you can do. I'm not saying necessarily do the exact median trim size or do the median price, but it gives you a range of what to expect. Um, don't be afraid to change things up. Test the waters. You might find that even though people are used to a certain trim size, that they might like your trim size better. But just know that if it's outside the norm, then you may be adding an unnecessary barrier of entry. You're very welcome, Stacy. Okay, so Judy says, I want a great illustrator for my children's books, but I don't want to put in more money than I can afford. I know Fiverr should be the go-to place, but I really want to buy America ideas. Well, uh, you can compromise. You can go to Fiverr and you can filter on the country. So you can filter on US. You can also filter on language if you just want to make sure that they speak English. Um, you can filter on any one of those things on Fiverr. Outside of Fiverr, you can try Upwork. Upwork is another freelance platform. I have found them to be a little more expensive than Fiverr, just generally speaking. Um, and but you can do the same thing. You can filter on US, you can filter on English, whatever you want the filters to be. Um, Other than that, I would say, and this is when it comes to illustrators, just in general, your best bet is to just reach out to other authors that are in your case, children's books, and see who they use. I found out unexpectedly that April Cox, who I've had on the channel before, she does children's books, which I knew, but one of the illustrators that I use in the past, um, Harry Avery, I think that's how you say Avery. Um, Harry, if you're watching, I butchered your name. I apologize. Anyway, he's done her children's books as well, and this was before April and I knew each other. So it's a very small niche community in a lot of ways, and so don't be hesitant to just ask. Are there any illustrators, any reasonably priced illustrators for children's books that you would recommend, and just see what people come up with. Okay, budget is tight. Can you suggest any review sites for free for my picture book? Um, Review sites. There are a couple. Um, Obviously, you don't want to do any review swaps. There's actually a couple sites that I'm looking at right now. One of them is, and I actually spoke to the creator of it, and she's an author as well. So she knows um, the all the hurdles we have to jump through. And um, I'm actually going to do a video on this as well. But I want to pull up that email because I want to make sure that I get the name of the site correct. But what this is this site is, you, as an author, you pay X amount of dollars a month. You're not paying for reviews. You're paying for entry into this community. It's a community of authors, and that community of authors, um, basically, they upload their own books and they review books that they're interested in. Now, she has a lot of checks and balances in place to make sure that this is not a review swap. In fact, if you read one of my books, I will not see your book in my list of books that I can read. It's that simple. And the whole thing is based on a points system. And so if I've put up a book and I haven't read one, then and reviewed one, I can't check out one, or I can't have someone check out mine. So it's a balance to make sure that there's not just an author in there putting their stuff up there and not doing anything. That you actually have to read and review books as well. Again, they've got checks and balances in there to make sure that it's in no way, shape, or form going to jeopardize your KDP account. Um, and that was one of the reasons why it really stuck with me. It meant that they put in that extra time, that they're not just doing it for for the money. They're not doing it, and that's another reason why they use a point system, because it's not, like I said, you're not paying for it. You're paying for access into this unique um, group. And let's see, I think it's, well, let me just look it up real quick. I will get that and I will drop the link in there so that way everybody has it. Anyway, so there's that. I will, like I said, I will drop that as soon as this pops up. So that would be my number one choice. Obviously, ideally, you want to get your own. Try to get beta readers, because that's your best way of um, getting someone who is familiar with the niche to read and review your book. Because if they're familiar with your niche, then they know the tropes and they'll really be able to give you a more in-depth review, and a more helpful review for the customer. And that's the important part. Um, okay, so I'm going to multitask here. So we're going to pop this question up. I'm going to go over here because I know the lady's name is Debbie. So we're going to search by Debbie. Okay, so the name of the site is, please stand by. Anyway, okay, so my next question is, when you're done, can you post the generic URL for review page that can be added to the end of my book so I can add an AS? Okay, yeah, yeah. So for those people who don't know, what Tweety is talking about is, um, you can add. We always want to get book reviews, so we'll put a link to get book reviews in our interior. But instead of sending them just to your regular page where they have to scroll down and click on write a review, you can actually find the short link where all you have to do is throw an ASIN at the end, the ASIN to your book. Make sure it's the either the ASIN or the 10-digit ISBN, and it will bring them right to the product review page instead of having to click a bunch of times. So it just makes it easier on the reader. And again, we want to try to remove any barrier of entry as possible. So yes, I will get that link and I will drop it down in the comments. I'll actually pin it at the top of the comment. Okay, you talked about the generic URL for reviews in that children book court. Okay, so they never dropped that link. Okay, that's fine. I gave it to them. Yeah, I'll drop it. Okay, if you put titles in word search, would that be considered copyright infringement? For example, movie titles. Excellent question. I get this a lot. The quick answer is no. The more accurate answer is it depends. Um, assuming you're not doing, as long as it's not in a derogatory way, you'll be fine. Um, if you did something like, for example, one about Hollywood, if you had a word search that was entitled movies that suck, and then you listed movies, yeah, you might have some problem there. But as long as it's, not in a negative way, there you shouldn't have to worry about copyright infringement at all. Um, so that's a short, sweet answer. Well, hello to you, Cameron. Glad to have you here. Oh no. Oh no. We got Connecticut in the house. Connecticut. Hey, Iris. I'm actually from Danbury. So if you know where that's at, let me know. All right, Justin wants to know, how do you decide if you need to use a different brand or pen name when publishing puzzle or children's books? Um, okay, so when I do puzzle books, almost always I do it under a pen name. The When it comes to any kind of genre that I'm writing in or publishing in, I guess I should say, it's a matter of, do do the niches that you're in complement each other or not? Um, Again, barrier of entry, I say it a lot, but you don't want to confuse your audience. And so, like for my children's books and my young adult books, I keep those under my same name, most of them, because they're still linked. They're still children's books. Even a young adult novel, young adults are still children, and so I'll keep those in the same under the same pen name, which happens to be my name. Um, but some of my other niches, even children's book niches, if they don't complement well to the other ones that I have, I will put them under a pen name. It may just be a variation of my name, or it may be completely unrelated. And there are a couple reasons why you want to do that. The most important one, again, is that barrier of entry. You don't want to confuse your customers. You don't want your customer or your potential customer to buy your book expecting A and getting B. Also, you don't want to have someone be purchasing one of your other books and see, oh, this is another one by this author, and it not really jive well with them. So it depends on what kind of books you're putting out there. Now, if your puzzle books are children's puzzle books, then within reason, I would definitely use the same pen name that you use for your children's books, because it's the same audience. And they may find you through children's books, they may find you through the puzzle book, but once they find you, there's a good chance that they're going to purchase the other. So hope that answers your question. So what I do is, I look and ask myself, am I going to be giving my customer additional products that they would be interested in, Or am I just going to be making them question if my books are right for them? Because if they question it, we have a very short attention span these days. So if you have a potential customer and they're questioning, well, I don't know, he also does these kind of books, maybe it's not right for me. They're done. They're just going to move on. So if there's any chance they're going to question whether it's right for them, then you probably want to put it under a different name. Yes, Patricia. Yep, that's my illustrator. He did Mimi's Adventure. Did an amazing job. Matter of fact, it got picked up by a traditional publisher. Fun fact. So he did more than an amazing job. Hey, Andy, glad to have you here. No, it's not late. I mean, even if we were done, you're not late. It's not a party till you get here, Andy. You're very welcome. All right, Jules is in the house. Jules says late two at double speed. I will be in live topic in 5 minutes. All right, that sounds good. All right, we got Scotland in the house. Look at that. I accidentally pinned it. Here we go. We got Scotland in the house. All right, Iris, you know where that is? Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I lived there for probably about the first uh, 8, 9 years of my life, but I still have family in Danbury. Oh, we got Mexico. Mexico. Awesome. Okay, what is the best budget friendly software to get started making puzzle books? I'm on a Mac. Um, okay, so the good news is most puzzle generating software are web based. So regardless of whether you're using a Mac or a PC, it shouldn't matter. Um, I would say I'm actually going to do a comparison on some of these softwares because there's so many pros and cons to each one. It depends on what type of puzzles you want to put out. If you're wanting to do um, if you wanted to do crosswords, then I would say word puzzle generator. It's a great one to start off with because just at the base price, you get access to cryptograms and crossword puzzles. Now, if you want to do things like word searches, then you can do instant puzzle generator. Um, that one, again, you just get word searches right off the bat. One reason why I use those is they have this flexibility with where you can adjust the trim size and the font type and all that other stuff. Other options are Puzzle Book Mastery. Ken does an amazing job with his software. His one of the biggest differences between Puzzle Book Mastery and the word puzzle generator and instant puzzle generator is his are a little Puzzle Book Mastery is a little bit cheaper, but the one of the biggest pros is everything is still kept there on their server, which is a pro and a con. Um, the good news is that means that you can go back to it later and make a tweak and export it again, but you don't have the flexibility of changing the trim sizes. Where the instant puzzle generator and word puzzle generator, those have the the ability, like I said, to adjust the trim size and fonts and all that other stuff, but nothing is kept on the server for security purposes. So that way nobody else has access to your puzzles. And so because of that, they, once you create it and you download it, then it's, when you refresh and go to a different maybe use it later on that afternoon, or use it the next day or whatever. After that session is done, all of that is off their site. So it's a balance as to what you're looking for, um, and what is going to help you the most. If you're someone who's just going, like, the puzzles you're going to do, you want to generate them and be done, and you want that flexibility to be able um, to change the trim size. You want a 6 by 9 and an 8.5 by 11. Then you definitely want to do either word puzzles generator or instant puzzle generator. If you want to stick with I think it's 8.5 by 11 or 8 by 10, one of the two. And so you want to stick with one trim size. It's a little bit more inexpensive, but your stuff stays on the server until you delete it. Then you definitely want to do Puzzle Book Mastery, and I have links to all of them in my videos, and I have done videos on all of them. So if you want to check out the video and see what they um, what they have to offer and what it looks like behind the scenes, now understand that my videos are going to, I always have um, I usually get the biggest package that they have, so I can show off as many features as possible. So know that not everything in the video is something that you're going to have access to if you buy the just at the base price, but it at least gives you an idea of what kind of flexibility you have. Can you clarify, the pen name is entered in the author section on the first page when publishing a book, and not as a d correct, correct. Um, your pen name is your author name. That's it. That's simple. Um, so John Doe can be your author name. That's your pen name. So it has nothing to do with your account. Your KDP account, that's you, that's the person getting paid. So if you think of it that way, the author name is your pen name, whether your pen name is your name or something else. Excellent question. Party only starts when people who arrive late start posting in the chat. There you go. Well said, Andy. Well said. Question. Inspired by your reformatting an old book, am I right in thinking that the PDF page count is what is important to keep the same? Don't want KDP, ISBN police at my door. Yes, you want to make sure um, that your page count is the same. When they're adjusting the interior, chances are they shouldn't be making such drastic changes that it's going to change your page count. Now, your page count, um, it can fluctuate a little bit. Um, if you do that, I would go in and at least update it to be a second edition. Um, but your ISBN is really tied to your title, your general page count, but more importantly, your format. So ebook versus print, or ebook versus paperback versus hardcover, that kind of thing. So if the page count fluctuates a little bit, you're still fine. If it fluctuates greatly, then that's where you'll probably run into some issues. So yeah, you want to make sure that it stays reasonable. And if you just go to formatted books and you tell them that it's an already published book, then they'll know to make sure that the enhancements that they do don't really affect your page count too much. Thank you so much. Thank I you know these super chats are never expected, and they always blow me away, and I really appreciate it. So, Fleischman Media, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Means the world to me. Whirlwind word search for my puzzles now. We're planning to upgrade to something better later on. I'll be honest, I have never tried them. Um, I mean, with a name like that, I'm assuming they only do word searches. They might do more, I guess. Um, Word searches they're good. They're very popular. But again, I don't really do a lot of word searches, like just word search puzzles, because it's kind of like doing line journals. Just everybody's doing them. Every software that I've seen has it. And so everybody's doing them. And then what happens is it's just that much harder for your book to stand out. So maybe they do more than word searches. I hope so. If not, I hope that they do well for you. I mean, you can still, don't get me wrong, you can still sell just a word search book and you can still make a decent amount of money. But typically you're going to have to run ads to it in order to just to be seen above, the ocean of word search books out there. You know what? That's it. Andy said it perfectly. Wow, Anthony Fleischman. Wow. Yeah, yeah. Check out formatted books. I've done I I just did that video last week. Let them know I sent you. All right. So, do we have any other questions? I know I went a little bit longer than I expected, but hey, you know what? We had some amazing questions. And the funny thing is these a lot of these were questions that we'd never been asked before. So, I like getting new questions. For one, I don't like repeating myself, and for two, the more questions we get asked, then the more chances that we're helping other people besides the person that actually asked it. All right, Patricia's got a question. Patricia says, question: when monitoring your Amazon ads dashboard, what's important to look at to see if you're making money or selling books? Okay, this I could go down a whole rabbit hole with this, but I'll try to make this as brief as I can. Um, you want to look at your impressions, you want to look at your clicks, you want to look at your sales, your CPC or your cost per click, and then your ACOS, ACOS. Um, it's honestly, it's hard. Your impressions you don't pay for. Your clicks are what you pay for, which is why it's called cost per click. Um, the CPC will tell you how much on average you're paying per click. Your ACOS, in theory, is supposed to tell you basically how profitable you're being. That is the um, the number of sales in relation to how much you've spent, and it's going to give you a percentage. What you ideally want that to be is you want that to be equal to, ideally lower than what your royalty rate is, because the amount of money that it shows that you've got in sales, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize when they're first starting out with Amazon ads, is if it says that you made 7.99, you didn't make 7.99. It means you sold the 7.99 book, but you only get the royalties of that. So if it's the print book, you're getting 60%. Um, so in a case like that, you want your A cost to be below 60% because that means you're making a profit. If it's higher than 60%, then that means that yeah, you're still getting sales, but you're not you're spending more than the royalties you're getting, which sometimes in in some cases, depending on what your goal is with that ad, that may be fine to run in the negative. I've got ads that run in the negative, but that's intentional. And I could go in a whole nother, like I said, rabbit hole on that. Here's the Now when you're doing ebooks, it depends on if you're at the 35% royalty, then you want to make sure that your percent is 35% or lower. So if you're at the 70%, then you got a little bit more wiggle room. Generally speaking, I just want my A cost to be as low as possible. Here's the issue with Amazon ads as it currently stands, and with why I say the A cost is supposed to give you this information. Um, A cost does give you A cost works correctly. Here's the issue: is the when someone sees your ad, I'm in market research. That's what my day job is, and and I've been doing this for over 20 years. in general, people have to see an ad about 7 times before they decide to make a purchase. So that means that now hopefully they're impressions and they're not clicks, so you're not paying for them. But here's the thing, if someone clicks on your ad and then decides not to buy it, maybe they don't get paid for 2 more days, whatever. The the pixel that's saved on their computer that they clicked on your ad is only good for it's either 24 or 48 hours. Amazon doesn't really give a lot of information out, but let's just say 48 hours. So if they don't get paid for 2 days and then they get paid and then they turn in and buy it, you still got a sale, but it's not going to show up on your Amazon ads as a sale because it's not attributed to that click because it's past the time of the duration that pixel was on their computer. Also, if they just clear their cache, it's not going to be on there. And so I've seen so many people shut down an ad because they're thinking that they're not getting sales, and so they want to save money. That's why it's so important to look at your normal dashboard on KDP. Although KDP is only showing you when it's actually shipped, so it's kind of hard. It's not as clear cut as we'd really like it to be. Um, so what I like to do is I like to use Get Book Report. I know some people don't like it so much because it does connect to KDP. But because of that, it's able to give you a little bit more information and you can look at it for a longer period of time, which is one thing I like to do. I also like to group my books. I can group them in genres or niches or types of books, whether it's puzzle books and then my no content books and then children's books, whatever. So you have a lot of flexibility with Get Book Report. Um, if you're making less than $1,000 a month in KDP sales, then Get Book Report is completely free. If you do make more than that, then it does cost $10 a month. So and I don't have a link. Just go to Get Book Report to learn more about it. I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that. So again, I told you I could go down a whole rabbit hole and I could talk about Amazon ads I could probably spend an hour talking about it, but in general, you want to look at when it comes to Amazon ads, you want to look at that ACoS percent and you want it to be as low as possible. That's the real answer. But just know that you might be getting sales that aren't being attributed to your Amazon ads. The good news is you're still getting sales. The bad news is Amazon ads report dashboard isn't going to be as accurate as we want it to be. So just keep that in mind. It's mainly important when it comes to deciding whether or not to shut down an ad. So if you know your normal book sales, I normally get, let's just say, you're just starting out and you get, 1 or 2 sales a month. And then you're running an ad and your Amazon ad dashboard says that you didn't get any sales, or maybe you got 1, but you're seeing that you've got 10 sales now on your KDP dashboard. Well, then that those ads, chances are those ads are what brought in those additional sales, even if they're not showing up on the dashboard. So hope that answered your question. I'm sure it was way more than you wanted to know, but I don't want to give just a short and simple answer when there's so many more nuances behind it. So if I just told you ACoS and that was it, then you'd be like, okay. And oh, my ACoS is 0. So now I'm going to get rid of it. And you might actually be hurting yourself. So again, you want, when you go to setting up your customized columns, as they call it, you want impressions. I got to visualize mine. You want impressions, clicks. You want your CPC, so you know how much you're paying cost per click on average, and sales and your ACoS. So those are the most important ones to me. And then your budget and your start date and end date, that kind of stuff too. Okay, I'm underwater on my ads on coloring books. Can you comment on bids for those? There's no way a 15-cent bid will get enough impressions. Okay. I understand that. Um, I'm not gonna argue whether or not I wouldn't say that it's not possible, but it depends on what type of ad you do to the coloring books because there's more than just keyword ads. You can do category ads, you can do product ads where you're just putting it up again where it's going to show against another product. So there are other options that could change your how much you have to pay. Um, so what I do is um, I start with during Q4, I'm going to start at 30 cents. You have to look and see how much your royalty is. You need to figure out how many, how many clicks can you afford at that price and still turn a profit if it turns into a sale. Because you want to keep in mind that in general, uh, you you want to get one sale for every 10 clicks. So if you're not making, if you're only making 50 cents on any given, book, then that's going to drastically reduce how much you're willing to spend on a cost per click bid and still turn a profit. As I alluded to before, there are times when it's okay to run in the negative, assuming that your goal is to just to get more visibility on your brand. So if you want if you've got an entire brand of coloring books and one runs you in the negative, but it may be leading to additional sales of your other books as well in that niche, then it might work out. So that's something that you just need to keep in mind. But generally speaking, um, what the way Amazon ads work, and I am going to do a video on Amazon ads, a more in-depth one, but um, but the way they work is you aren't necessarily going to pay what you bid. You're going to pay if your bid comes in first, and it's not just based on the dollar amount or the cents amount, whatever. It's based on relevancy, based on how many sales you've got, how many clicks turn into sales, that kind of stuff. Um, but also the money. But let's say you come in at 15 cents. If the person that came in second came in at 12 cents, then you're going to pay 1 penny more than that. So you'll pay 13 cents. So that's why if you put it in at 15 cents and you're noticing that your cost per click is lower than that, that's why. Because it's only 1 penny higher than the person that came in second. Anyway, um, I would just I would slowly raise your bid. If 15 cents isn't working, try 20. Normally, I would only do in increments of 2 or 3 cents, but because we are in Q4, bids are going to be a little higher. So you may want to do increments of 5. Also, know that your it's possible with Amazon ads, and because I said Amazon doesn't share everything, not even close, it's hard to determine why. Sometimes ads just don't pick up. You can have one at a dollar cost per click, which I never suggest, but a dollar cost per click, and you still don't get any impressions, or you get like 25 impressions in a week, then it's just not picking up. And so you may have to just create the identical ad that you already have and just create another one. Not copy the one you already have, because if there's something there that's just not picking up, then it's a chance that it's just going to happen again. So sometimes, and this has happened to me, where I'll run an ad and I'll have it out there for 2 weeks, and it has less than 500 impressions, and I know my cost per click is reasonable. Then I'll just create an exact copy of, not, I won't copy it, but I will recreate it exactly the way it already is. There's no explanation as to why that Amazon is shared. It's just something that happens. So I would increase your cost per click if you can afford it. I remember that the ads, there's no guarantees. So you want to make sure that you never put a budget that you can't afford to lose. So if you can't afford more than 15 cents a click, then just put 15 cents a click. And you may have to be a little more creative with the types of ads that you put out there. You can put out keyword ads, and be pick out keywords that are still searched for, but maybe not as competitive. So no, it's not going to be as effective as a high performing keyword ad would be, but because you're going for the low hanging fruit, it'll be a lower cost per click. So those are a couple different things that you can do. I'm building a brand and now have 4 published. I do find success with the product category ads. Okay, good. Good. Yeah, product and category ads are have untapped potential in many ways. Um, I definitely and I would suggest I don't like to use more than 3 or 4 categories in any given ad. Um, yeah, you can still drop down and look at the targeting and see which ones are doing what, but I have so many ads running that I like to just be able to look at the name of the ad without even have to click on it to know what categories it's in. So a lot of times I'll just do one category. But yeah, product and category ads can be extremely lucrative. Another untapped potential, depending on what type of niche you're in, are locked screen ads. Locked screen ads are really good for, I mean, not for puzzle books or anything like that, or coloring books, but poetry books do really well with lock screen ads, because romance. Anytime you've got someone looking at their digital whatever, their phone, their iPad, their Kindle, whatever they're looking at, and they're done reading whatever they're reading, and on the lock screen an ad pops up, if it's something that they're already interested in, there's a much better chance that they're just going to click on it right then and there because they just finished the other. So anytime you're in a niche that has very voracious consumers, on the digital format of it, because puzzle books and coloring books, they can be very voracious readers as well, or consumers, but obviously that's not in digital form. So then yeah, you want to definitely try to look into doing some lock screen ads. But for you, I would say I would stick with product and category ads, and then maybe do some, if you're on a tight budget, maybe do some low hanging fruit type keywords, depending on your niche that you're in. Oh, wow. Here we go. I knew this was coming. All right. Do you have any idea why Jade Summer got kicked off Amazon? I'm terrified of making the same mistakes. Um, so for those people who don't know, Jade Summer was a very big brand, um, in the no content, low content realm, and they recently had their KDP account completely taken down. From what I heard, and this is just hearsay, but from what I heard, they started they started kind of going outside of what their comfort zone was. Not in a good way. Um, from what I heard, they started using copyrighted and trademarked titles. They had some books that were supposedly uh, in what they claim to have thought was um, in fair trade, but and public domain, but apparently they weren't. I heard that they even had ones that were Disney themed, um, which is a big no-no because Disney is famous for squashing anybody who is trying to milk off of their product, um, and their name. So that's what I heard. Again, I don't know any facts about it. I only know what I've heard. So yeah, so it, if you use your knowledge and you do what you know is right, and I don't want to say common sense, but yeah, in some cases common sense. Um, I mean, KDP makes it pretty clear what they accept and what they don't. Um, And the bottom line is Amazon cares, number one, about their customer. They don't care about me. They don't care about you as authors. They care about us as customers, but not as authors. And they want to make sure that their customers are getting the best possible experience they can. So if they see people, putting up products that are misleading to the customer, they will take that down. Okay. Hi, Keith. Is it possible to offer a Kindle version of a puzzle book that can be printed out to scoop up some extra revenue? Okay. So the quick answer is no. And I'm gonna say there's a caveat. So because you said is a Kindle version, no, you cannot. It is a printable thing, or it's um, if more than, I think it's like 80% cannot be read, KDP doesn't want to on Kindle. Now that said, I'm going to change your wording a little bit and give you a positive answer. Is it possible to offer a digital version of a puzzle book that can be printed out? Absolutely. You can create a digital version of it and put it up on Gumroad. You can put it up, depending on what type of puzzle book it is. If it can be seen as educational, you can try to put it up on Teachers Pay Teachers. You can try to put it up on Amazon Ignite. You can put it up on Etsy. Any of these places that allow for digital files, you can sell a document version, a printable version on that platform. Again, you cannot put it on Kindle. So, hope that answers your question. If notebooks and word search books are the saturated types, which could be are the lowest saturated kind of interiors we can do with tools like Book Bolt and Tangent templates? Well, I mean, I'm assuming you're just talking about no content, low content in general. There's tons of journals you can do. Tangent templates is amazing. Book Bolt is, I mean, it's good as well. I haven't dabbled in it nearly as much as I have Tangent templates. Um, but yeah, it comes down to, and I've talked about this numerous times, having a niche. Um, you can do a golf journal, where people can keep track of their golf game, and have it. I don't know if Tangent Templates has that interior, but if not, you make it yourself with PowerPoint or whatever. But having a theme, again, if you just do a generic notebook or a generic word search, it's going to be a lot harder to sell than one that's themed. Same thing goes for journals. So I know sometimes, especially if you're making yourself, they can be more time consuming, but um, I have found that good quality interiors, as long as you do your research ahead of time and make sure that there's a niche and an audience that is interested in buying it, then it can be very lucrative. Now, if you're talking about puzzle books, well, I mean, Book Bolt and Tangent templates don't really have puzzle books, but um, so to answer your question, I mean, I can't tell you what the lowest saturated kind of interior is, but um, because if it's too low saturated, it might be because there's no audience for it, or not an active audience for it. So find an interior that you're interested in doing, whether you're doing it yourself or it's on Tangent templates or Book Bolt or whatever, and do some research and see how competitive it is. You want to see how many competitors you have, and then you want to look at the top 10 or 20 books in that niche and see how they're selling. What's their BSR or their bestseller rank? If their bestseller rank is of like the 20th spot or the 10th spot is 100,000 or less, then that's a really good chance that you can be that there's an active audience buying it. Now you also want to check the competitors, because if it's a lot of competitors, then again, you're kind of just, it's a fist fight that you may have to run ads to and that kind of stuff. So it's a balance between, you want low competition and high sales, ideally, and that's in any business, whether it's books or not. Um, So you want to find an audience where there's they they're actively buying the book, but they're not they're just, again, going back to the whole voracious. They're just so voracious. There's not enough content for them to purchase. So um so low competition, high sales. Okay, Andy from Easy Graphics says, I haven't done puzzle books myself, but scrolling through Keith's puzzle course, you'll see some very unique puzzle types. Those are not saturated from what I see. People do, yeah, yeah. That was actually one of the prerequisites of being included in my course. Um, is is that the the puzzles that are in there, I in the course I teach you how to make puzzles, um, just like I do in my videos, but these puzzles are way more unique. But they're ones that have actually sold for me. I didn't just pick some random ones and show you how to make them. These actually sell for me, and and as of now, they do not currently exist in any paid software. So you can't just go to Puzzle Book of Mastery and download these type of puzzles. So those were some of the prerequisites that it took to be included in the course. Now, real quick, because I'm not going to talk about my course too much, but I am doing a complete, well, not complete, but a huge update to it in the part that I'm basically doubling the size of the course, and that should be done within the next couple weeks. So, just a little fun fact for those people who already have it or people that are thinking about getting it. And again, these, because I teach you how to make them, yes, they're going to be a little bit more time consuming, but again, like I talked about earlier, I only suggest doing maybe you know 10 to 20% of your interiors, at least to begin with, should be these types of puzzles. And then I can cover that later in the course. So, is there a hardcover option now? Many people have access to hardcovers. Hardcovers, I assuming you're talking about KDP. Those are currently in beta. As far as I know, they're still only allowed or only available in the US, but I believe that everybody in the US does have access to that. I could be wrong. I know I have access now to it, but I didn't for the longest time. But yes, KDP hardcovers are currently in beta, and the quality is pretty amazing. I actually did a video showing the quality where I actually review the quality of the KDP hardcovers. All right, we're gonna have to wrap up pretty soon. Let's see. That's exciting. Expanding your course. Yep. All right, sounds great. Thanks so much, Andy. I appreciate it. So, if nobody else has any other questions, I am going to. I still owe you guys some links. I will put them in the comments. I'm going to have a link to the review site. I think it's Get Book Reviews, but I don't want to just to put that out there. I have a link, so I will include a link to that as well as to the short link to put inside your book for getting a review to your book. So you take this template, if you will, this template link, and you throw your ASIN to the end of it, and it just makes it so much easier. Sorry, it makes it so much easier on your end user to leave you a book review because they only have to click on it and it brings them right to the give a review tab. So makes things so much easier. So I will drop those into the comments momentarily. So until then, I hope everybody has a wonderful December. Happy holidays to everybody, and I hope you all have a great end of Q4. And remember to write right.